This podcast is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be really squeezing and pressing all the knowledge out of Sunny here so we can get some nice information, tidbits for our businesses. And we're going to go through 3 scenarios, 3 different cider businesses in 3 different stages of growth. And we will give advice for marketing, business growth, all that kind of stuff. All 3 scenarios will be cider makers with their own orchard. First stage would be a startup, low marketing funds, 0, no cider product yet. Maybe they're still working on it. The second scenario would be a cider maker with his product already figured out, already out in the market, maybe a couple of years operating, and maybe they have a small marketing budget. They've already started thinking this amount of funds for marketing. And then the third scenario will be a large cider producer with multiple years experience and maybe a large marketing budget. Maybe they already have 1 or 2 people in their marketing department specializing in that. And I think if we do 3 scenarios, it could be helpful for those people that are in and around those stages to be advised directly to them. What do you think, Sunny?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So before we get started, Sunny, can you give us a little bit of your backstory, your experience, and what you've been working?
Yeah, for sure. Very quickly, I'm originally from Norway. I moved to the US to go to college. I went to New York first in 1995, and that's when I started. I actually have a background as a record label executive in the music industry, and I did international marketing for very big brands, big celebrities. And then after 10 years, I reschooled myself. I went to culinary school. I also started studying wine, and since 2005, pretty much, or 4, I've been in the food and wine industry in New York. I have had different roles, everything from buyer in retail, wine buyer in retail. I recently worked for Quetchabella, which is a very well-known small Tuscan winery in Chianti Classico. I was their US marketing director there. I've also worked as a wine buyer for Matthew Kenny Cuisine, which is a global plant-based restaurant group. And then also have worked for importers, distributors, doing sales. My passion is marketing, actually now branding. And I started last year my own company called the Plant Curious Table, which is a digital content creation company that specializes in the plant-based food scene, but also wine consulting, spirit consulting, and hopefully cider soon. and definitely very much focus on digital creation, like courses, classes, education, and also consulting for companies who are looking to expand either into the US market or getting into the US market from here. So that's very, very short. But again, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, dating myself now. But it's great to just be working on my own and having sort of the freedom to do my own thing and just work on projects that are passion projects that I really love. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and talk about cider.
I was super excited because, like you said, you've been working in so many industries. I'm like, just picking Sunny's brain for the viewers would be incredible. But let's go right into it. I don't want to waste people's time. Scenario 1, which was a cidery that maybe hasn't had the product out yet. Very, very little to 0 marketing budget. Maybe it's just a couple, maybe it's just people, you have your own time. What are the most important must-haves at this stage, Sunny, for growth, marketing, or even just business advice so they can start in the right direction?
Sure. So this is the stage that I specialize in and love doing, but it's also a stage that I think everyone can come back to and connect with, even if you are an established brand, to sort of renew and revitalize your strategy. So as you said, you have an idea in this stage. You may have a product. You may have decided to start a business. You may even have a few customers or leads. Maybe you're hand delivering a couple of bottles here and there. You might even be in talks with a distributor. But some questions to ask yourself before all of this in this stage would be, can we get enough customers, right? Can we deliver our products? Can we provide services well enough to become a viable business? Can we expand from that sort of pilot production process, if you will, to a much broader sales base? And then also very important, do we have enough money to cover the sort of considerable cash demands of this startup phase, right? So I think many people just start out with a dream of, I just want to make delicious cider or insert wine or beer, but then they don't take into account that 80% of your job will actually be marketing and selling that product. And it's important to educate yourself in this area and treat it like that's just as important, right? And that starts with a strong foundation. And this is what this is just something I want to highlight. It's starting with a strong story. And be aware of how you present your brand. Like, why are you in business? Like, what are you trying to achieve? What was your inspiration? Like, have a strong goal and then work backward from there. I mean, you can have all the strategies and marketing expertise in the world and be part of as many organizations as you want. But if you're not clear on who you are as a brand, you won't succeed, and you'll disappear in a sea of other brands that may have a stronger foundation. So that's why storytelling is so important in this stage, and in every stage for that matter, but especially as foundation. And I always say facts tell, stories sell. And this is a mistake I see many times done in the wine industry, where they focus on the wrong thing. Like, they go on and on about soil types and whole bunch fermentation, all these technical wine terms that I, as a wine nerd, of course, appreciate, but most people don't care. They want personal stories. So that's why telling your story will really capture the attention. And secondly, identifying your ideal customer. And this can be, it can be a lengthy process, and one that can continue into both scenario 2 and 3 or stages 2 and 3, as you and your customers might change, and your target market might change. But I'd say to start just focusing on one, not trying to sell to too many groups. As they say, when you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. And many make that mistake and put out the bland message like, hey, we're for everyone. But that doesn't really evoke a very strong emotion in anybody, because they don't feel that you're speaking to them personally. So although it can be very scary to niche down, especially in the beginning, I think that your chance of success will be much higher if you dare to do so. So just make sure that your messaging is attention grabbing and different from other competitors, and also make sure to communicate. This is something that goes for all industries, but like communicating the transformation the customer will go through by choosing and consuming your cider. Like, what will they go out? What will they get out of buying and drinking your product? I think it's very important to focus on the transformation the customer will experience, and not getting too lost in the features of your product. Of course, this can change as who you're talking to. If you're talking to a buyer, they want to know that, but I'm talking about customers in general. This is really where you start to build a brand. As an example, you're not going to hear Apple, right, detailing all the bytes and bits and fast processor, I don't even know, but all the geeky inside details of the machines, right? They're grabbing attention with their think different slogan. They focus on the UVP, right? The unique value proposition, and make consumers want to be a part of this cool group, this Apple product customers. And I think we can learn a lot from that in the alcohol beverage industry. And then when we have no marketing budget, or you're trying to think like, how can I, get seen? I would say if you friend or team up with a mixologist, for instance, get them to fall in love with your brand and pay attention to them, maybe bring it into their bar, tell the story. Starting small like this, just having one person as sort of your cheerleader can be very powerful. So starting small and not expanding or focusing on expanding and being everywhere too quickly. You can obviously start with private parties, partner with groups and organizations in your area that you think might enjoy cider, or have the interest and the budget to purchase your product. Private clubs could be a good one. Farmers markets, I've seen ciders hang out there and sell their products. It can be a very low cost entry into, you'll obviously have to have, the paperwork in place to do that. But I think that's really where you get to sort of have that close connection with customers. And then, team up with wine, food, and lifestyle influencers. Not all influencers charge like $100K, and if you find someone that really resonate with you, again, same with the mixologist, getting someone to sort of help you spread the message. And this is where you're, building your grassroots following, right? You'll have a chance to talk to people, understand their taste, what they like, what they're looking for. You can educate them, tell them about your cider and your brand. And this is really, the most time-consuming phase, right? But it's also a really rewarding stage where you'll get feedback and validation of your concept. And again, people in stage 2 and 3 should also do this continuously. They shouldn't lose track of that. Like, for instance, with my Arctic Grub brand that I have, where I produce digital content in the food and wine space, I specialize in something very niche-y, like plant-based Nordic food. And I do cooking classes and workshops online. And then Scandinavian clubs will have seen the online courses and they contact me, and I do in-person cooking classes around the tri-state area. I've even been invited to speak in Wisconsin at a national fair there. And so really getting involved in your community and industry, I think is really important in this stage.
I want to hit a couple points that you said. One that comes to mind is getting your product, jump in when you think I'm right or wrong and give some context. I think the best strategy in this stage could be giving away a lot of your product, like a lot of tasting. Like you said, maybe send it to influencers. They put maybe not spend so much money on Instagram ads or big ads. I think giving your product away so people try it, right? Because nobody knows you, and at the end of the day, something edible, you want to try it, right? I think there's a friction between a new product and a person purchasing it. It's like, ooh, what if it's disgusting? What if I spend X amount of money and I hate it? And it's like you're fighting yourself on an investment, right? Micro investment, but it's still. But if they try for free and they I don't know, if it's not cider, like hard cider, it could be some sort of like apple juice or anything at clubs, like workout clubs or anything where they can try it and they taste it and, okay, you know what? I'll buy it and I won't have to risk trying something I don't like and spending my money. So I think I'll give a shout out to Revita from Alberta. They told me that they spend, I don't know, they gave away maybe 30 to 40,000, individual products of their energy drink, and in the first year. Like, that's huge. Who gives away 30,000 of the product for free? And it worked, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to, obviously everyone's different, and I don't know what their marketing budget is at that point. And still people have to taste your product. So spending money on, like you said, Instagram or Facebook ads is like throwing money out the window, because nobody is going to buy something they don't know, right? But also it comes down to that strong foundation I talked about. Like, who are your ideal customers? So when you're sending out samples, be discerning to who you send samples to that are actually going to make sense, right? So this is a way you can sort of be a little bit, not that you're being stingy, but you're being very methodical and conscious around your choice of who's going to taste, right? But I think that you never know who's going to fall in love with your product. So there's never anything wrong with, and you have to do that. And this is probably going to be your biggest expense is really giving away products so people have a chance to taste. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any tips on, I don't know, maybe accepting to yourself that you have to niche down, and maybe have one little tiny, I know how hard it is, thinking like, well, I could get somebody from here, from that, I can sell it to everybody. I'm giving away money. Like, I'm leaving money on the table. If I focus on one person, it's very hard for a new entrepreneur to accept that. That you just really talk to the most narrow audience you can, like you're saying. Any tips you get there, logically accept it?
Well, I mean, look at someone, I was going to bring this up later, but I just was thinking of my own industry, the wine industry, someone who's actually niched down and become incredibly successful, and something that maybe people thought was not going to work is the wine 19 Crimes. So first of all, Australian wine, right? Oh my God, like Australian wine is so out. Nobody wants those, like, remember how the funny like animals with all kinds of colors on the labels and screw cap. Oh my God, not romantic, right? And then they have a male criminal, convicted criminal, not exactly like an attractive branding. I'm not talking about Snoop. I did work with Snoop. I did his international publicity for many years. So no, not Snoop, but I'm talking about the general, branding that they have. And the reason was, this wasn't just random, okay? They've done a lot of research, a lot of talking to customers. They are targeting millennial males who are sort of identifying with that sort of rough, like rogue, like sort of mischievous type, right? And they selling like crazy. So, I would say if you're scared of doing that, ask yourself, well, what is my ideal market? Like, who would I be super excited to have my, to have them taste my product and be customers? And then also, who can I identify with most, and maybe can identify with me or us as a brand, because it's really an emotional purchase, right? Like, nobody needs your product for survival. So you have to find something that you can have that sort of very, I would say, natural connection with, and you have to go through that stage one and identify everything before you just say, I just want to sell my cider, I just want to make money. Because I understand there's a lot of finances involved, a lot of budget concerns, and maybe people are just like putting their life savings into this, and it gets really, really scary. But again, like I said, when you're trying to hit everybody, nobody identifies with you, and nobody's going to buy your product. So it's really, you said, it's very tough, but it is the most successful strategy, I think. It's been just proven,
This stage, they're trying to expand reach. Do you think going towards online sales would be a good option, or more focusing on their local market, local area where they reside?
Well, initially you want to obviously focus on local, but I don't think it's an either or scenario, in my opinion. Of course, being present in your local market, I think, is very important. But for cider especially, I say you'd be missing out if you're not online, as more and more people do go to that outlet to purchase. And, I know that especially for the younger market, I know that cider has captured a lot of the millennials and those 20s, 30s, 40s even, or 30s. But e-commerce for alcohol is rapidly growing, as we all know who's listening. And I read somewhere that online shoppers went from 19% in 2019 to 44% in 2020, which I know COVID probably had something to do with that, but it's still projected to increase threefold until 2025. So yes, you would be totally missing out if you didn't do it. But also you have to identify, like, what resources do you have in place to make that happen? Because, obviously you'll require another person or more labor, investment, money, in whatever technology and expertise in online marketing and things like that. But overall, I think when you're doing online sales, you can also more easily control the customer experience. When you engage in direct to consumer sales, you have more access to customers, which I think is really powerful. And of course, you have to take into consideration there are lots of strict regulations of e-commerce in many states, and involving shipping and taxes and so forth. So there's naturally, some barriers to entry as well. But I see many cideries having their own cider clubs, which I think is great, where you can purchase online. I think that's a really great way to strengthen that customer experience and your brand and their experience of you. So I think clubs, if you can do it also, is great.